Hello and welcome to a lovely Thursday here again on Viking.TV. And all week we've been looking at world dance. And my job tonight is to tell you the story of a dance phenomenon that sparked into life some 26 years ago and took the entire globe by storm. If you've never actually been along to a performance somewhere in the world, you'll certainly have heard of it and you probably wish you could have gone. This today is the story of Riverdance, now celebrating a quarter of a century. Unbelievable if you were there. Do you remember what it was like when we very first saw it? Nobody could quite believe their eyes, and that was some 26 years ago when Riverdance first burst onto the scene. Now, if you go to the show, many of the dancers you see performing weren't even born when Riverdance first wowed us. And I'm told that at least one of the principal dancers is a Riverdance baby. Her parents met doing Riverdance themselves. I think that's her. And she now dances in it herself as a principal dancer. Over the years, the show has featured 2,000 performers from 29 countries. There have been something like 71 marriages and long-term relationships between cast members in the last 25 years, with 108 babies born along the way. That, as you must agree, is certainly something to celebrate.
This is the story of an extraordinary show.
Once in a decade, something happens in musical theater that really reinvents itself. In the 90s, it was Riverdance.
I doubt that there is a person in North America today that really has they may never have seen Riverdance, but they certainly heard of it.
It's one of the most successful shows ever. And to be part of that is, first of all, a privilege, and secondly, a very hard thing to put into perspective.
Riverdance has changed Irish dancing forever. It has brought it to the world.
Please welcome Riverdance.
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 Oh my goodness. The 25th anniversary, as I say, was started last year, but then of course had to be put on hold, indefinite hold at the time, due to coronavirus. But at last, with theatres opening, they can get going again and are due to restart the celebrations next week. So let me introduce you now to someone I'm proud to say I worked with too many years ago to mention. He is the show's director and one half of the husband and wife duo that invented Riverdance all those years ago. John McColgan, who joins us from his home in Ireland. Hello there, John.
Thank you, lovely Anne Diamond, the queen of the sofa. You're still the queen. You're still the queen. You look fabulous. Anyway, we worked together, and I just want to say it was one of the best times in my life at TVAM. It had its ups and downs. It had an array of eccentric characters. Nevertheless, it was a fantastic experience, and yourself and Nick Owen on the sofa were brilliant.
And that, to anyone watching right now, that was British breakfast television that we...
Oh, sorry, people forget.
Well, a lot of people watching won't know that, but because they know you because you are a global phenomenon now. You were telling me just a few minutes ago before we came on air that there was a time when you used to walk down the streets in New York and people would say, "Hey, Mr. Riverdance."
It's true, because one of the things that really got us going in North America was PBS, public television, and they have a pledging series. They play the program many times to raise money for themselves. And they invite myself on and Bill and Moya and some of the performers, and we talk to them and they raise money. But they showed it regularly for about a year. So that's why people in the streets sort of tended to recognize me. I was on it regularly.
Oh, well, as I said, if you haven't seen Riverdance, I think most people probably sitting in there watching now think, why haven't I seen Riverdance? And is it still there? And of course, it will be again very soon now, because you did originally launch the 25th anniversary some year and a half ago, I suppose.
Last March, we played in the same theatre where Riverdance first appeared. It was the Point then, and it's the Board Gosh Energy Theatre. And
something's going on in the background. I don't know what. It's not me. Maybe it's you.
It's not me.
I'll just go on talking. Don't worry.
Yeah, we took it off the road for a year because, just as you said, at some point, we wanted to examine it, refresh it, and make it like it was directed or invented tomorrow or today. And so we took it off the road. We redid all the costumes, redid all the backgrounds, high-def LED screens. We got a French animation company to do the background animations and stuff. And we re-rehearsed the...
Don't worry, I don't know what that is. I tell you what, when we're talking about restarting next week, where will you all be? Should we play a video while we try and get the sound sorted out? Make sure...
Look, it's fine, yeah.
Why not? We've got tons of videos that you've been very kind to let us show. And I know that so many of our audience at the moment are watching. And in a moment, I'm going to ask you how you explain to Americans what the Eurovision Song Contest was in the beginning, because that's where it all started. Things have gone quiet for a bit. So let's just ask you, how do you tell Americans, for instance, what the Eurovision Song Contest was? Because that's where Riverdance came from. Yeah,
well, we know what it is in this part of the world, but in America they don't. And I say that it's a contest with 50 or 60 countries. It's a big event in Europe, and each country submits and selects a song, and huge audiences, 500 million people watch it, and every year it's a sort of a cult thing. And for a number of years, Ireland won about 4 years in a row. Now we haven't won recently, but that's what the Eurovision was. And in every show, they had what they call an interval act. And the interval act was staged between the end of the singing and the finale, when you introduced the winners. And the interval act was normally was where people went and made a cup of tea, because it was normally very worthy, folky, representing in their own country in a worthy, quite often very boring way. And then you came back for the judges and the voting. But the year that we did it, the audience in the theatre, the year that, now this was produced by Moya Doherty.
That's nice.
I was my wife. I was in the background. She was at that time working in RTE, the national service, and they asked her to produce that year's.
Well, I tell you what, John, while we try and sort out what's happening with the sound, let us take up the Riverdance story from one of your own videos. And here Moya starts telling about how the Eurovision Song Contest had to be hosted every year by the winning country. And as you said, because Ireland won so many times, you had
just disappeared.
every time. So let us just play the video now where Moya takes up the story and tells everybody about how Riverdance was born out of Eurovision. Here we go.
Well done.
In the summer of 1993, I was approached by Liam Miller and RTE to produce the Eurovision Song Contest. And it was the responsibility of the host country to produce an interval act that in some way reflected the culture of the country. So I thought it was best to look to our roots, and hard shoe and soft shoe Irish dancing was the obvious choice. And earlier I'd actually met Jean Butler and Michael Flatley, two American Irish dancers. So I gave Michael and Jean a call, and my third and most important call was to the composer Bill Whelan.
Ladies and gentlemen, Riverdance.
I just wanted rows and rows and rows of hard shoe dancers. As a child, I'd always wanted, I was a lousy dancer. My mother was an Irish dance teacher and I could never keep up with anything. So I think I just really always had a passion for hard shoe dance.
Such an incredible energy and electrifying sense of energy that kind of carried you through this performance. And all the ingredients were there.
Nothing really prepared us for the response that there was. But then when we got to that last note and the line was there and everybody, and Michael and Jean were taking their bows, we knew that we looked around and we thought, my God, this is an extraordinary reaction.
Well, there you are. I mean, that was the first time any of us had seen Riverdance. Frankly, I think it must have been you and Moya's first time you ever realised that this was a phenomenon. Because, I mean, look at the way it was received. Nobody'd seen anything like it. Where were you? Where was Moya when that happened?
Well, Moya was, for the first time in Eurovision, they were going live on camera to all the countries. And that was something that she came up with, and she got a lot of technical help. And so normally they just went in audio only. So she was in with the monitors guiding through the voting backstage. I hadn't worked directly on it, but I was in the audience. There were 4,000 people in the theatre, and they didn't know what to expect. They were from all over Europe, from Spain, Germany, Austria, England, and so on. And when it ended, and you see this on the video, there was about 2 seconds of silence. Yes. And then people jumped to their feet with a kind of primal roar. They were saying, what did we just see? And so that we knew then that something special had happened, something that we had to try and capture and go forward with and develop. Now, we had some inkling during rehearsals. People dropped in and out, and you know, there was a bit of magic going on, which you never know till you know. Mm.
But there it was magic, as you say. Was there a moment where you and she rushed towards each other, maybe not for ages, actually, until the end of the programme, and said, that was amazing, that was fantastic? There must have been one of those hair-raising moments.
There were hundreds of people congratulating her and hugging her. There was 4,000 people, so it was ages before she got to me, and she was being congratulated left, right, and centre, which as it should be. But I knew then, and my immediate thought was, we have to turn this into a show. There's an opportunity here, and the single went to #1 in the UK. And then the Irish papers, you know, where there was a lot of hyperbole, and 7 minutes that shook the world was a headline.
It was a 7-minute dance.
Yeah, there was a choir thing at the beginning, and so on and so on. But
until then, the interval act in Eurovision wasn't really, you know, sometimes they hired in a big name and did a song. Sometimes just did something local to represent the country. But this was the first time anyone had done anything that made hairs on the back of your neck stand on end. And yet, I mean, you, when I knew you, you were a blinking good director, and I think probably the best I've ever worked with in my life. And Moya, I know everybody said, I never worked directly with Moya, but she was part of the team, and everybody said how brilliant she was. But you started in breakfast television. We've got a lovely picture that you had taken at the time. I'm so glad you had that one taken of you on our breakfast television set.
That's correct. That's correct. This boy, and then she presented what was called After 9. There was a half hour between when the main show ended, between 9 and half 9. She presented that for a while.
Yeah, and you came on many shoots with us when we used to go all over the world sometimes, and we went particularly to California, to Hollywood. That was it. Now I think you actually took that photograph.
I did.
The right, and Nick on the second left.
That's Pierce Brosnan's late wife, Cassie. She died of cancer.
And we had the most wonderful day with them, didn't we? Beach, in their beach house, and they were so lovely to us. And of course, you know, he a fellow Irishman, really always been very loyal to being an Irishman, and I know that he's been a very big Riverdance fan ever since.
Yes, he's very charming and very generous, and is a nice man.
Oh, he's a lovely man, and he's working with you on the most recent project, but we'll talk about that later. I don't think I have a picture of you and Moya actually getting married, though I love this particular picture I found, which is, I think, when you bought your lovely first big house after your first huge success.
I'm sure you're right.
Don't even know.
For the next time, I'll get you a picture. We got married in Highbury. What's it called? Highbury Registry Office.
Yeah, in London.
Yeah.
When you realised but that was before Riverdance, of course, when you were
it was
to be together, and then of course you've had two wonderful children. Is that Mark and Danny?
Mark and Danny. Mark is 32. Danny is just coming up to 30, and that's them when we were in Radio City Music Hall the first time.
The first time you actually took Riverdance abroad to the USA, and of course, stayed in touch with all of these, particularly, you know, big famous Irish names as well, like Liam Neeson there. That's you with Imogen and Liam. And it's been the most amazing thing, amazing journey that you have been on since the Eurovision Song Contest and Riverdance. As you say, this big decision to try and make it a show. Instead of just a 7-minute dance, how do you turn it into a show?
Well, lots of people were skeptical. They said, why don't you go into the Gaiety Theatre, which is a 1,200-seater theatre? And in my head, I immediately knew, or at least I felt I knew, that you couldn't do a 2-hour show of Irish dance alone, that it had to have contrasting other cultures and other dance. I also knew that Irish dance wasn't taken seriously as an art form. It was taken as a kind of a cute kind of Irish thing. So I thought if we scheduled, or if we cast the best of Spanish and Russian and African American up against or beside our dancers, that it would suddenly, you'd see how how professional and how exciting they were as a dance form, and that happened. And in the original show, we had gospel singers. They're gone. We had cloggers. They came and went, but the Spanish dance is still there, the Russians are still there, and the African-American tappers are still there.
I mean, that decision to turn it into a show must have been like a very hard one to work at, because basically what you're doing is putting your life on hold at that point. I mean, I'm told that you even mortgaged your home to try and finance this whole
project. We did, and lots of people, as you know yourself, lots of people offered to invest. RTÉ, the national station, was good. They did invest, and some other people did. And then some of the people who did say they'd invest, when you came looking for the check, went missing.
Yes.
And then when we sold out the first time, they came back and said, no, we're ready to invest now. It's too late. But anyway, we were lucky. We went on the Late Late Show with Gay Byrne for the first show in The Point.
Now, for I'm watching from the States who doesn't know that, Gay Byrne was the
Johnny Carson sort of.
The Johnny Carson of Ireland, yeah. We're going to do Ireland, you always did Gay Byrne. Yeah, he was a legend.
He unfortunately died there a year ago. But anyhow, Gay is a dear, dear friend of mine, and he was always able to anoint or bless a show. So he brought on myself and Moya and Flatley and Butler. And he said, if you want to see anything, you have to see this. And this is the best Christmas present you could possibly get for your family and your parents. And when he said that, we sold out the first week.
Isn't that amazing? We've got some video actually of those days when you were working at it, trying to figure out what would make a longer show, taking that risk, as we said. And I think everybody was involved. Look, I mean, there, you've got it. Everybody, that's Moya there. Everybody on the phone trying to do deals. And then on the night, the first night, you must have wondered, how's it going to go? How's it going to go? And it did. It was brilliant, wasn't it?
I was really nervous because you know yourself what you think it is, but as I say, with a note, you never know. The audience is the last cast member, and when the audience, you need that validation before you know you have something special. There's our gospel choir.
Yeah, that's everything. Literally.
That's our early tappers. Yeah.
To make it a big, big show. But as I said, at that point, both you and Moya must have given up your broadcasting careers and just said, right, we're going to throw ourselves at this. Huge risk, just from an ordinary family point of view.
Huge risk, yeah. Moya at that stage was a senior producer in RTE, so she sort of pulled back from that so she could produce the show, which she did. And we split our duties. She produced, raised the money, managed the money, did all of that business end of it, and I was the sort of creative and the director end of it.
Very different from your previous job, though, in a way. I mean, yes, you, as I said, you're a great TV director in light entertainment. You have always understood the concept of entertainment and big entertainment. But the minute you start to manage a show like that, you're taking on a community of young dancers, of their lives, huge responsibility.
I never felt that. I felt it was an honor and a pleasure. And to this day, it's an honor and a pleasure to work with those young, energetic, talented people. And they now call themselves the Riverdance family. They look after each other. And we encourage a culture of looking after each other, a culture of being professional. And there was a time in the first year or two where there were a lot of people who thought they were just there for the ride and for drinking and for whatever. And at one contract renewal time, we got rid of 30 people, and that sent a ripple through. We had 3 companies at the time, and everybody who was let go knew why they were let go, and everybody who was kept behind knew why they were let go and why they were kept behind. So it was the beginning of a real professional culture where a young person of 17 or 18 could have a living and tour the world for 6, 7, 8 years once they stayed fit and looked well and paid attention.
Crumbs, yes, but it's hard work. Of course, what we're talking through now is the era that you went through where you had to, right, you got a successful show. It's doing very, very well, but the big deal is to take it to Broadway. And you had to take that risk, and you did. All the media were talking about it. Everybody was talking about it, from politicians to popes, as we'll learn later. But if we just have a look at this video now, this sort of shows this huge decision to take the team, and a big team it was, to Broadway and try your luck in America. And of course it worked, as we know now. Have a look at this.
They call this the hottest ticket in town. Originally here in Hammersmith for just 10 nights. It was extended for a fortnight, but it's still sold out until June the 24th. Now they've added another 5 nights, but hurry, because those tickets are selling fast.
Ireland had taken Riverdance to its heart in an unprecedented way. In London, it became the hit of the year, and it seemed inevitable that the next step should be New York City, home of the most demanding audiences in the world.
Oh my God!
St. Patrick's Week in New York, in Radio City Musical Hall, doing the show. I mean, what more could you ask for? It's a dream.
Our next guests are a hugely successful Irish dance company, and tonight they are making their network television debut with us. We couldn't be happier. They will also be appearing at New York's Radio City Music Hall from March 13th through St. Patrick's Day. Do me a favor, please welcome Riverdance.
And it's just incredible. It's amazing to be here in the Big Apple, in perhaps one of the greatest stages in the world at Radio City Music Hall with our own Riverdance. It's just a major moment.
it exploded. We just dragged on, held on by our knuckles to the coattails of Riverdance and travelled with it.
And the nominations are...
Paul McGuinness rang me and he said, I have some news. And I said, what? He said, I think you're going to get nominated for a Grammy. I said, I couldn't believe it.
Riverdance!
Oh, well, when all of those big names say Riverdance or Riverdance is the way to do it, then it must have been so exciting to read those first reviews.
It was fantastic, and I have to say, if I haven't said it already, that the Bill Whelan won a Grammy for the score, and that's what you saw recently there with Liza Minnelli presenting it to him, and he wrote an amazing score that is still fresh and still exciting to this day. So he was a major contributing factor, as was Michael Flatley and Gene Butler.
Well, yeah, I wanted to ask you about them. I mean, there was a fallout with Michael Flatley, and didn't Butler break her leg at one point? I mean, you know, it wasn't all up. Sometimes it was down, wasn't it?
She was a little prone to injury, and I remember there was a huge amount of tension. Would Flatley come, or would he go, or would he sign the contract? So there was contract negotiations going on, which was very stressful, and he felt, as it turned out wrongly, that he had all the aces, that nobody could get rid of him. And he went on all the British TV chat shows, and he said, nobody can do what I do, they'll have to take me back. So that was his, we at the same time were training Colin Dunn, who's a wonderful dancer. And I was determined not to lose the show because of him. Yeah. And so that was happening. And then Gene Butler was the star, and Barry Kleiman is our wonderful promoter, who's a lovely Jewish gentleman. And he's been with us, he's still with us, and he does Shirley Bassey and Tom Jones and everybody, but he's great fun. But Gene Butler came around the corner outside Hammersmith, and we were there all in a cugger mugger on crutches. And Barry said, Gene, you're joking. She said, no, I have fractured my ankle. I don't believe it. So Flatley was gone, and she was gone. And this was the big test. And I remember Moya, my wife, and the producer at the time were in the lobby. They couldn't go even in to watch it. And at the interval, a lot of people were going to the box office. And they said, oh, Jesus, this is it. They're looking for their money back. But they were actually trying to book another show. So even though Flatley was great, the show was bigger than anybody.
Yes.
The hit of the show. And thereafter, we were lucky that he went, because he went his own way, and we were not tied to a star. So if you bought your ticket, you didn't know who was on, and you were happy with, and we put the best people on. So we never had a name on the marquee after that.
It must have been a scary moment, but I absolutely understand that. Yes, you had to be able to prove in a way, and certainly the last 25 years has proved it, that the show is bigger than any one person, because it has to be. It's such an enormous animal. What are those pinch me moments? What are the moments? Can you remember? You must have had so many where you have to pinch yourself, or you've turned to Moira and said, pinch me, I can't believe, we're playing to the Pope, or we're doing this, or this big stuff.
The first big moment, I think, was I think probably Radio City Music Hall, and that I, as an entertainment fan and as a fan, I'd been to see the Christmas show and the Rockettes, so Radio City as an iconic venue. And I remember on the first rehearsal, I brought all the cast onto the stage, but with their back to the auditorium, and we were filming this for a documentary. And I said, do not look out to the auditorium till I tell you. So they all walked on with their backs to the auditorium. And then I said, turn around. And they went, oh my God, I can't believe it. There's 6,000 people stretching up to the sky. And just the scale of it is incredible, of Radio City. And when you stand there and look up, you go, oh my God. So that was a moment, and there was tears, and there was emotion and all of that. So that was a moment. And then China was a moment, Mexico was a moment, Germany were moments. And one of the things, Anne, that I committed myself to, as did others, was that if you're lucky enough to have something that is a hit or successful, that you would absolutely do everything within your power to keep the standard up. My mantra to the dancers is that every night is opening night. So you can't have an off night or a down night. Somebody bought their ticket, they want to see the same show as was the opening night.
Yes.
And that hit home to me when we lived in London. When I worked at TVM for about 5 years, we went to lots of shows in the West End, and there were well-reviewed shows with stars, but quite often they weren't there. Quite often they were going through the motions. They knew the lines impeccably and they knew every move impeccably, but they were doing a crossword or thinking about Coronation Street in their head. They weren't in the moment there. And I thought, if I'm ever in charge of something, I will attempt to make sure that everybody is there all the time.
I tell you what, my dog is going crazy, which means there's somebody at the door. I'm going to go and answer the door while we play this video. It plays some of these incredible magic moments that you have lived through and that Riverdance has made for those young dancers and for everybody watching. Let's have a look at that now.
Thank you, Anne.
Introduce to you Riverdance.
This was the show that announced to the world that Ireland was a cultural force to be reckoned with in the popular sense. It made Irish dancing sexy, and it made it cool.
So this is it, Sunday, the 21st of July, 2013, and we just broke the Guinness Book of Records for the longest Riverdance line.
Oh my goodness. I mean, so many pinch me moments. Can't believe it when you see all those amazing faces and names. Can you?
No, and you're reminding me of things you kind of forget. And I'm having such a great time looking at all these clips. Like, oh my God, there's the Queen. Oh, there's Nelson Mandela. Oh, there, and
John, what did the Queen say?
The Queen, we met her in a backstage room for about 2 minutes, and she said she was so thrilled to be here. And I said, Ma'am, we're very honored that you should come to the show. And Prince Philip said, I said something complimentary to him, and he said, I'm so sorry for disrupting all the traffic. It must be fearfully inconvenient to have all this traffic. And then we heard afterwards the show was recorded and it went out an hour and a half later. So she was staying in a very posh government house, and she went back there, and we heard from one of her staff that she got a large gin and tonic and sat down and watched the whole thing on the TV.
I like to know that. She was staying in Dublin, I presume.
Yeah.
No, I love to hear that. It's nice to know that these superhumans are actually human sometimes.
It was a great night, and she, I think, enjoyed it. She was very keen to see how it turned out.
Yeah, but and like the rest of us, she'd never seen anything quite like that. And you crowd so many people, big deal politicians and A-list celebrities and everybody, and a lot of them have stayed very loyal to the Riverdance phenomenon. I mean, if we just look through some of the pictures from your album, and we can talk through some of these amazing moments. But there, I mean, like I said, the Pope.
My friend, the Pope.
Yeah, your friend, the Pope. Did you get to talk to him at all?
No.
But he clearly enjoyed it.
No, he loved it. I mean, it was just, and that's the stage for the Pope event that we built. That again is Croke Park, and we Tyrone Productions, our production company, produced that show in the stadium in Croke Park.
I mean, that was we'll see a video a bit later of the whole thing. That was the biggest, the longest Riverdance lineup ever.
That's right. That's right. We have Porrick Boyles, which I must mention, my wonderful, wonderful executive producer, lead dancer for 18 years. He does everything now. He's just a wonder, and I love him, and I'm really lucky to have him.
And that, if you look in the middle, there is Michelle Obama with her daughters.
Yeah.
Now, where was that and what was happening?
That was backstage at the Gaiety. That we did a special performance for Michelle and her daughters. She wanted to see it, and the regular time didn't fit into her schedule, so we mounted a special version of it, and it was like a 90-minute version or something, and she loved it. And she's such a charmer. I mean, she just seduces you with her smile and her charm and her eloquence. She's a wonderful woman.
Yeah, well, she's quite a mover as well. She's a good dancer.
Yeah, she is.
Girls did it as well, didn't they?
Yep. And she invited us, you must come to the White House. So we think, now I'm getting ahead of myself, we think we may be in the White House next March. We're doing a very big show in the Kennedy Center, and we're inviting all the American politicians. It's going to be a big thing because we're there in the St. Patrick's Day time in March.
Oh, that's brilliant. Because there are a few American politicians that you have come to entertain in your time. The Clintons, obviously. There's a lovely shot we have from your family album here of you with Bill, I think, Bill Clinton.
Oh yeah, Bill he had a great shtick, I must tell you. You stand in line to meet him with other, VIP dignitaries. And I met him a number of times outside of that, but he's a man standing beside him. And he says in his ears, as you approach, that's John McColgan, he's the director of Riverdance and drama. Hey, John, I love Riverdance. It's a great show. Congratulations. Only 30 seconds, and the next guy gets the same kind of treatment.
Yeah. Oh, well, yeah.
He's fantastic, though. He's such a, and she's, I really liked her. I was sorry when I was heartbroken. I was in Haiti, believe it or not, doing a documentary for Troker, a charity organization about the poverty in Haiti. And I went to bed in New York, got a short flight to Haiti, and I woke up in the morning and I heard that Leonard Cohen had died and Donald Trump had won the election. And I thought, sweet Jesus, dude. I loved Leonard Cohen so much. I'd seen his show about 4 times. But anyway, and then I couldn't believe, because when I was going to bed, all the pundits were saying Bruce Springsteen was ready to do a celebratory concert, and they were all convinced that Hillary would make it.
Yeah, I know, and it didn't happen. There you go. At least you've got some wonderful photographs of you with them. There are some other lovely photographs of everything that happened to you, really, once you'd made it in America. There's again Liam Neeson, who's clearly stayed a big friend of Riverdance.
Yes, he has. He really has. Yeah, he's great. And Gabriel Byrne, who's in that? Least, our president, and her husband, and us. I think that may have been China. Yeah, she came down to China on a trade mission, and she was at the show in China.
How have you taken to being famous?
Not really. Only in so much as I'm not as famous as Anne Diamond, but as no, in Ireland, people, when I'm out for a walk, I've seen you somewhere. Are you on the telly? So they have kind of a half notion that they've seen me somewhere, but I'm not really famous.
Well, I think you are, actually, but there you are. Now, tell me about her. She's a very...
Joan Bergen, our costume designer. She has won 3 Emmys for Vikings. She did the costumes for Vikings, and she's now 80-something, but she's fantastic. That's Bill and our executive producer, Julian, who has retired last year. And that's me in the middle.
That's amazing. And as well as all of the stories that and all of the amazing people you've met, I mentioned earlier these amazing facts and figures about Riverdance, like the number of babies that have been born, the number of marriages that have happened. That's what I mean about the responsibility now of your role, is that you look after a whole community of people.
And I am honored, and I keep in touch with them. And what's really given me great pleasure is that during the lockdown, when we were all so traumatized and depressed, most of the kids were working out, posting videos of dancing, sending messages of hope to each other. It was really life affirming. They're just so adorable, and I'm like a father of all these children.
Yes, you are. You very much are. You must feel that responsibility, because it's not just a professional troupe of people, because you have to bring on the next generation always.
Yeah.
So you have Riverdance summer schools. There's almost an academy. You're almost like running a big football.
There's a Riverdance Academy in Porrick Moyles, who's my main man, runs all of that, and he's a fantastic choreographer and dancer, and I'm neither a choreographer or a dancer, but his passion for Riverdance and for perfection, and he imbues them with the culture of who we are. We believe we have a culture, and we believe we are a family. We believe we love each other, which we do, and there's almost never any tiffs or because everybody's looking out for everybody. And the kids then, sometimes when they had babies, they took them on tour, and the rest of the company would mind them in the dressing room, and they would rotate the babysitting duties. And and one of our Russian dancers, Katya, who's in the show at the moment, her mother was a Russian dancer in the first show.
And is that the picture I showed at the very
Yes, it is, yeah.
So she is now a dancer with Riverdance.
Yes.
Her mother was also.
Her mother was, yeah.
Isn't that amazing? That is, I mean, that makes you feel old for a start, but that is incredible, because that's what I mean by running a community. But you're tough and you require the very best. We've got a video clip now showing how the dancers rehearse and the standards they have to reach just to be on stage with Riverdance. Let's have a look at this.
You would have went around and cut on to Peter.
For the most part, it's practicing it so much as that you can't get it wrong. And it's making sure that the communication is clear between every single dancer as to where they're moving, when they're moving, what they're supposed to be thinking, what they should be visualizing, what they should be feeling on stage so that the audience feels it in the auditorium, where their toes are supposed to be placed, how high their legs come up, how low their legs go down. There's so many aspects to make it as perfect as it can be.
We've been Irish dancers from we were 4, 5, 6, so we've kind of grew up trying to be this Riverdance style of dancer. In terms of the troupe coming together and having to dance at exactly the same speed every night, that takes hours and hours of rehearsals.
When it comes down to it, the sheer speed that's happened, it comes over years and years of training. Some people have been measured up to 40 taps per second. I know some of the solos are probably ranging between 20 and 35 per second. I mean, I've been dancing for, 24 years now. And even then, I'm still trying to get faster. And speed is one thing. There's execution as well. So sometimes you'll see when you do go really fast, you lose your technique, but it's the uniqueness and the presentation of the feet as well at that speed that's really difficult. Right now you're seeing in the world there's such a huge thing about inclusion and acceptance of everyone for who they are, whether it's race, religion, sexuality, and Riverdance is all about the sharing of culture.
We are like a big family, and the energy we get on the stage is very inspiring for dancing. Not only with Irish, we have like different type of dance and learn from each other. It's amazing.
I tell you what, John, dancing obviously keeps you looking young, doesn't it? 'Cause,
I look at them working out and I look at them staying fit, so it keeps me fit in my mind. But I do burst with pride, and I love them collectively and individually, and I tell them.
Yeah.
And I say, I love you, Mary or John or whoever it is, and they say, well, we love you, John. And so we hug and kiss and declare undying love. And when I see them on Facebook, I send them, "You were great today," and there's Jason O'Neill, who's from Belfast. He's posting a series of videos of him dancing in the street, and a sort of Michael Jackson or James Cagney or whatever, but he's fantastic. And I'm so lucky to have been involved with this crowd of people. The performers in the main, they've never given me anything other than pride and excitement. And they kind of know that in the early days, they used to get injured quite a lot. And that was because they didn't warm up and they didn't work out. They were amateurs, they didn't know. And when they started the tour, they were on the piss a lot of the time and would come into rehearsals and stuff hungover. And they now know you can't do that.
Yeah.
They're professional. And if they get injured a number of times, they may not be in the next show.
Absolutely.
And so, and their real passion is to be in the show and not to let anyone else down.
And just in that rehearsal sequence we saw there's nobody sitting in the background eating crisps or drinking or anything, or even joking. They're all really, really watching, and they're egging on the others.
That's right. They watch each other when the other people are rehearsing. They're watching them and they applaud at the end of the whatever sequence that is, and they genuine applause because they love their dance mates. We have 20 new dancers coming on now to this next tour, and they're very talented. And Porrick selects them. The first requisite is that they're brilliant dancers, that they have the technique and the skill. The second requisite, I suppose, is that they have an onstage personality, and hopefully then they look good, because we did take world champion dancers who were the best in competition, and we had to get rid of them because they had no personality on stage. They were so dull. Even though they were great dancers, they had no inner spark or inner communication with the audience. And I give lots of motivational talks, and I say to them, when 40 of you are in a line on the stage, if you have one thought in your head, if you have the same thought and you look out into the audience, they'll know what you're thinking. They will receive what they're thinking and they will give back to you. So you can't have all thinking about disparate things. Collectively, as you move down towards the front, you have the one thought in your head, and that brings the house down.
Wow. And that's true, because it's a light in the eyes, isn't it?
Yeah, and it's that they're engaged mentally and creatively with and I say who you are and what you represent, And I also say that when the lights go down in the theater and the lights come up on stage, there's no director, there's no choreographer, there's only you and the audience, and it's all in your hands. It's up to you from that point on. So I try to encourage them to own the evening, to own themselves and take pride in that.
Yeah, and as you said, always make yourself believe that every night is opening night.
Every night is, and we do, and we do have people out front watching them. And if we see people, and it's human nature, if you're tired or you pull back and and we give notes every night. You were a bit off tonight. So yeah, sorry, I was tired.
If I spun back the years, 35, almost 40 years ago, and I said to the younger you, one day you will be granddaddy, if you don't mind me saying, to this incredible body of young dancers who would give their all to be a member of Riverdance and to go around the world. I mean, would you have believed it, that you would be capable of that?
There's 2 points there. I would have believed I'd be capable. I'm very confident. I'm bordering on arrogant. No, I would have been confident delivering, but I wouldn't have thought it would easily be possible. I was going back to Ireland and I wanted to direct drama. I had directed a number of dramas when I was in RTE television, and I was going back to reignite the drama career. I did a couple of TV shows with Gabriel Byrne and other folks. So Riverdance fell out of the sky. Moya was asked to produce that year's Eurovision. So the debate was, what is the interval act going to be? And a month or two before she made that decision, I was producing a show in the National Concert Hall in Dublin. And I asked Paddy Maloney, who's the leader of the Chieftains, who knows more about Irish dancers because he works with them. I said, is there any Americans out there? Is there somebody who's taken it to another level? And he said, yeah, there's this guy called Flatley, and there's a girl called Jean Butler. So I cast them best based on his recommendation that they had brought another level of show business to the Irish, because the Irish dance traditionally was very, very strict and very tight. So they definitely were that. And then all of the others over the period came out of their shell and became show people as opposed to just Irish dancers. But the foundation is they must be skilled Irish dancers.
And they were from the very beginning. Just to, you talk about drama and making drama. I mean, every Riverdance show has been a drama. And when you've done some of these amazing live shows, that's been so dramatic, you can barely believe it. Let's have a look at the video of a couple of stills we've seen just earlier of the way Riverdance played to Pope Francis in Ireland. And not only was it the Riverdance people, but you invited so many other youngsters from all over Ireland, making, I think, the biggest spectacle I've ever seen. It's absolutely incredible. Let's have a quick look at that now. Well, I think the Pope clearly liked that. It was just lovely seeing all those youngsters. And you could tell where they really wanted to be. They wanted to be in Riverdance centre stage.
And so did the Pope. He said to me, can I take a few lessons from the dancers and I'll have a go myself?
Yes.
No, he didn't.
No, I know. Shame, though. Have you ever wanted to have a go yourself? Have you ever tried?
A different thing. When I was 16, 17, I won medals for jiving in the local tennis clubs. Yeah, I was a jive king. And because of that, when I started in television, I started in television when I was 17. And I met lots of dancers and I was really intrigued by dancers. So there was this wonderful young woman who was a choreographer, and I asked her, did she think I would make a dancer? And she said yes, but she sort of sussed out that I wasn't as obsessive and about it, where I would give hours and hours till my feet bled. And she said, do you want to do that? I said, I don't think so. But I was attracted to the idea of using your body. I mean, I love musicals, I love West Side Story. I always loved dancers. And I think that the least paid, hardest working troopers in show business, and they're so talented, they work so hard, and to be as good as they are in any dance form, they have to work so hard.
Yeah, you're right, it's the dancers. Your dancers have recently been fitted out for what they call motion capture, because you've turned Riverdance into an animated movie.
Yes.
That's extraordinary. What a big step to take, but how exciting. we can see here so they put on these motion capture outfits so that their dance movements can be faithfully reproduced in animation.
Yeah, it's incredible. It's on Sky Cinema at the moment, and it's fantastic.
It is. It tells the story. I won't go into the story basically, but it is about the whole Riverdance phenomenon, which is, and we've had quite a few people asking questions about why was Riverdance called Riverdance, and it's basically the mythology, isn't it, behind some of the Irish.
It's called Riverdance because when Moy produced it in what was then the Point, it was on the river. The theatre is right on the river, so there was what to call it, and she came up with the Riverdance.
That's right, and it features these mythical characters. Or at least
the movie, yes, it's about mythical characters, and it's about deers with big horns, and it's a beautiful, warm
creatures that come out of the
picture. And the grandfather dies early on, and the child is searching for his lost grandfather. But it's lovely.
Good, I've seen it. Yeah,
it's funny and a tear in the eye.
But you've still got the movement and the dance and the music.
The most extraordinary to me looking at it is when they do those horseshoe routines, when the deers do it, their footwork is absolutely accurate and precise. I've never seen that in a movie. It's fantastic.
I know. No, well, it's never been done in a movie. No. And those A-list, celebrities that you got to know very early on have stayed loyal, as I've said, and at least a couple of them are doing the voices on that animation at the moment. Pierce Brosnan for one, Brendan Gleeson for another. Should we have a look at them doing their business? If nobody's ever seen how you do the voices for animation, these are lovely sequences. Let's have a look at these.
Hunters hunt! It's my nature to stop life. You should thank me!
Watch out! Keep going, faster now, don't look back, don't stop for a moment. Watch out, keep going, faster now, don't look back. The boy never knew his parents, but was lucky enough to be raised by his grandparents. They were the best of friends and worked in the lighthouse of River's End. I'm as young and as spry as a man half my age. Old bag. For your information, I'm aged like a fine leather wallet. Ah, this brings me back now. Grandad continues to dance, lost in his memories. Whoop, whoop, ha ha, this brings me back. Oh, this brings me back now. Oh, jeez, me back. Oh, no, don't move. Stand right still there now. Oh, no, I'll sit down. No, I won't. I'll stand.
It's lovely to see those big names taking the Riverdance story into a new chapter, I suppose. But we were talking earlier about the fact that it's the 25th anniversary, even though it's now a year late. How, if I'd come, do you know, I've never come to see it.
Well, how dare you even be doing the program? You haven't seen. Jeez.
I'm so sorry about that, but I'm planning for something for Christmas.
Okay.
But I never saw it 25 years ago, but you're celebrating the 25th anniversary now. How different is it?
It's the same and different, if that makes sense. It's this, the foundation is the same. It's re-energized, it's revisualized, and it's remotivated. The kids that are in it are so professional now, and we work with them. When we re-rehearsed the show, we said, forget what you know about Riverdance. This is a new show. So we talked them through it number by number and gave them the motivation for each sequence. So we said, you own this new show. Don't be looking back at the people who were there then. You are the new stars. You own this show from now. And that really excited them and turned them on. And they did. And when people were at the show in what is now the 3 Arena, on the night of the anniversary, on 25th night, people came up to us and said, what have you done? How did you do? It's so different. Oh my God, it's amazing. And then we got the cast from the very first show at the end to come on. So the cast came on at the end, and we had gold spangles and pyros and so on.
Yeah, I can imagine. Must have been very emotional.
And people were standing and crying, most of the audience.
Exactly. Yeah, and people, like I said at the very beginning, if you haven't seen it, you want to. Most people say, "Oh, I wish I'd seen Riverdance," and now celebrating a 25th.
Yeah, because it's kind of with young people, anybody under 25 may not have seen it, or their mothers might have, but it's Riverdance for a new audience. It's not this old thing that your parents liked. It's a cool, hip, kind of modern-looking show.
Yeah. So if so you're doing, you're hopefully reopening now, as hopefully the world is beginning to reopen, the 25th anniversary tour. How many troops do you keep going at any one time?
The most we'd had on the road at one time was 3 companies. At the moment, coming up, we will have 2. And when we were so hot, we had 3 companies. The promoters came to me and said, "Can you put up another company?" And I said, "No, I just can't. It's stretching us too thin. I want to retain the integrity and the quality." So the most we had for quite a period of time was 3 companies. Then we went down to 2. Sometimes we were at 1. And this year, in the 25th anniversary, we have 2 companies. One is doing the UK, and then there's North America, and then there's China and Thailand and Australia.
What incredible. I mean, it's just been the most incredible journey. For anyone who wants to see what they may see if they go to a 25th anniversary Riverdance, let's have a quick look at what it looks like now.
Thank you.
You were saying earlier, John, that these young dancers, you would imagine most of them would come from Ireland. They never have, actually. They've come from all over the world. And never more have we seen so than when they've been trying to keep together over the last year, when they have had to go back to their various homes all over the world, but they stayed in touch with each other.
They have, and we got them all to do a little video, which I don't know if we gave to you, but it was fabulous. They're from all the different places around the world.
I am literally trying to introduce it as we speak. So
sorry.
How did they do it? Because I find it such a moving video.
It's very moving. All of them, Porrick worked it out and set it up, and they all did it on their own iPhone, on their own location around the world. And it, as I said, was very moving. But they keep in touch with each other, and they're very special people. And I'm proud and honored in my lifetime to have come across these people and this show and this notion, and I love it to bits. And I say I stand in the back of a darkened theater in America or Mexico or Germany or Japan or China, and I burst with pride when I see them. And when I see the audience respond the same everywhere. There's no language barrier, and there's no cultural barrier. When we went to Japan, I'll tell you a quick story about Japan. We went to Japan, and normally the very first opening number, the guy does a big ta-da, which normally gets a big applause. There was silence. Fuck, they're not enjoying it. And all the way through, the applause was really muted. And at the end, they got up and they were crying and they were throwing roses on the stage. So it was just a culturally different way to respond. And then in China, they're not used to going to the theater at all. So they were on their phones and talking. And well, we've been to China 10 times and they love us.
Yeah, I know they do, don't they? Well, dance and music is something that can reach out across the globe. Before we show that amazing video that, as you said, Porrick helped them make, which I find one of the most moving videos I've ever seen, to do with lockdown and everything.
Lockdown and yeah.
People at the moment coming in with questions. Lots of people asking about Michael Flatley. Does he still do Riverdance? He doesn't, does he?
No, he does his own. He's got his own show, which is going out on the road in the UK next year.
And Arlene from California says, how long is a dancer able to stay with you? How long can this sort of dancer continue their career?
Once you get to be 30, it's close to the end. And then if you're really fit and if you're really on top of it, you might have another couple of years. But when you put somebody who's 35 beside a 17-year-old, it doesn't kind of work. So Pádraig was heartbroken, my dear friend. And now when he had to stop because he was really fit and really in great shape, but he started to look old in the lineup beside the kids.
Yeah. Hard business.
Show business is hard.
Tough business. Dr. Stephanie in Pasadena says, as someone with Greek heritage, I was wondering if you considered helping countries like Greece to make Greek dance a phenomenon as well. Have you ever looked at Greek dance?
Throwing plates, not
just throwing plates.
I know. I haven't. I've tried with China. They asked me to take Chinese traditional dance and make it acceptable to the Western world. And I did spend a couple of months down there trying, but I couldn't make something that would engage with the West.
Yeah, it's difficult, but it's a challenge in the future. Yeah. Okay, Mavonin, what a lovely name, from Pittsburgh in the United States says, Dear John, when Riverdance is in the US next year, will it be touring around the country? We first encountered Riverdance music on our first trip to Ireland in '95, and we've seen the show several times in the US, but we would love to see it again. So she's just saying, will you be going round the country?
We're doing a tour. So and if you go on the Riverdance website, all the dates and all the cities are there, so you'll be able to find out which cities and the dates there, and it starts mid-January next year.
Dorothy in Pompano Beach says, I remembered the name of the Dublin hotel, Mother, and I saw the small dinner show of Riverdance. It was Jury's Hotel. Yeah. Okay. She obviously saw the small dinner show. Interesting.
Riverdance. There were a number of small dinner shows that did Irish dance, and nowadays, Riverdance has kind of become the generic for Irish dancing. And they say, I saw the Riverdance, but it could have been something else.
And I was Googling Riverdance babies a while ago because I was trying to find the name of that young dancer we mentioned earlier, who was the daughter of a river dancer. Riverdance babies is an enormous phenomenon now on YouTube, with babies who are hanging in those springy, what do you call them? We all had our kids in them, didn't they? The little springy things. And of course, they're doing because children do Riverdance type steps, don't they? When they're bouncing in those.
My couple of friends of mine sent me videos of their 3 or 4 month old child. The music was playing, and they start to.
It's a whole new phenomenon. Lauren from Aurora in the US says, thank you to the entire Riverdance company. I'm hoping post-COVID brings many positive opportunities to your cast. Our 17-year-old son has truly enjoyed Riverdance Academy twice. Ooh.
Oh, that's in Dublin, or was it in Boston?
Well, let's see.
We do it in Dublin and we do it in Boston.
He said he enjoyed the mentorship of Pádraig and the whole crew. Wonderful experience. The many positives our family has gleaned through Irish dance are too many to mention. We can't wait to get back to Ireland soon. Oh, isn't that nice? Arlene again in California. No, we've done her. Taryn in New Hampshire. Where can we see Riverdance live in the USA? Well, as you said, go to the Riverdance website, which is a really good website, actually. It's got lots and lots of videos on it and everything. Diane in the UK says, we're going to see the show in Oxford in October. Really looking forward to it. Bernard in Pittsburgh said, John, can you dance yourself? Well, we've already asked that.
No, not so much.
Maybe the gene is there. Alison in Wellington says, I love Riverdance. The skill is incredible. I can't believe how fast their feet move. How long does it take for a dancer to train up to a performance level? That's an interesting question, because one of the videos we showed there shows some of the male dancers tapping up to an incredible amount of taps per second.
Well, the most Irish dancers start when they're 4. So you can't start when you're 15. It's too late. So they start when they're 4, and they compete with each other around the world at what they call the Worlds. So they compete from the 4 to 8, and then the 10 to 15, and then so on. So they compete in their groups, and they just get more skilled, and they're competing with people who are very skilled. And so that's how they come up through, and they're very protective of the skill levels. So if you brought somebody in who was beautiful and looked like Julie Roberts, but she was just okay, they wouldn't be very impressed. You have to be skill-based first, and after that, you can look well or you can have a personality, but the skill has to be there. And as I said, converse to that, we brought in a number of people who were world champions, and they were very dull.
Yeah, it's interesting. You want a bit of spirit, a bit of fire. That's what the Irish is all about, I think. Teresa in Redondo Beach, is Riverdance named after a particular river in Ireland? Well, there are particular rivers that are named in the Riverdance sequence.
Well, we called the different companies after different rivers. The first company was called the Liffey, then there was the Lee, which is in Cork, then there was the Lagan, and I can't remember anymore.
No. And Mika in Montclair says, can't John book Riverdance on board a Viking cruise ship? We are going to talk about that, aren't we?
I think we can. I think we do what we call a flying squad, and we do this around the world either to promote the show or, like royalty in Saudi Arabia and around the world has said, can you do Riverdance? And we can't do the whole enchilada, but we do a really reduced version of it, which is quite exciting. And we do anything from a 20-minute to a 90-minute version. So yes, it's possible.
Yeah, we will talk about that, because that would be wonderful. But in the meantime, I just wanted, we were talking about it a bit earlier, the way that your youngsters have reached out to each other across the world in the last year and a bit. And I know that things are opening up again, and that you're going on tour from next week again around the world. But these young people have such talent, and we're able to show it off in this wonderful video, which I think you called Riverdance Apart Yet Together. And I found it one of the most moving videos I think I've ever seen, because in a way it sums up the spirit of young people against the horror of
adversity. Yeah.
Oh, it's absolutely beautiful. So if I just say to you, John, thank you so much for joining me today. It's been absolutely brilliant. Please give my love to Moya and to the whole Riverdance crew, because what you have brought to the world is an extraordinary phenomenon that goes on giving, which is
and thank you. You're very kind, and you've taken me on a trip down memory lane. And I have to say, as a producer stroke presenter, you've done a great job. I've never had this long an item. You normally do 4 to 6 minutes or something, but so that was a luxury and a pleasure, and I appreciate it. Thank you very much.
Everybody's thoroughly enjoyed hearing what you've had to say and telling us your story, but also seeing the dancing. So I just want to end, because I find this particularly moving. I want to end by saying, here are the youngsters of Riverdance. I just want to remind everybody watching at the moment, next week, we're going to be talking to Lady Carnarvon at Highclere Castle, the home of the real Downton Abbey, because she has a new book out called Seasons at Highclere. And we're going to be looking at some of the amazingness of the whole castle, but also some of the wonderful fruits that are produced there, and the way she's been able to turn it into a sort of cookery book, come lifestyle book. It's one of her new books anyway, and we'll be talking.
And can I invite you and your family to a special night in London at Riverdance, and you'd be greeted and feted and welcomed and backstage and all of that.
That is so a promise. So thank you, John.
All right.
Love to the entire Riverdance family. And I want to end now with this wonderful video, which is how the youngsters from all over the world kept in touch with each other through dance.
Thank you, Anne. Thank you.
Hear my cry and my hunger. From all of us in Riverdance.
And on the front line.
To all of you at home, thank you.
Heel against floor and wave upon shore, heartbeat of the world. Out of the dark we came, out of the night, the first of many mornings in this new place. When the sun rolled back the mist, we rose like a strong wave on land.